So I am Emma Myles. So today we're going to be looking at neurodiversity at work and why inclusion starts with understanding. We're going to have a bit of a rethink, a redesign, and a reflect on our current practice and our current organisations. So who are we? So first, Pettipool is an organisation based in Cheshire, in Northwich, Sandy Way. We've been running for about 40 years now. We started out our college in a car park, so it's expanded quite a lot. We now have 119 students at our college. Every single student has an EHCP, and they have additional needs. And the main goal of the college is to support those adults with additional needs into employment that's beneficial for them and substantial. So we also have Pettipool in the community as well. So a lot of neurodiverse adults can spend their weekends in the week. As soon as they're out of education, it's kind of like they just kind of fall off a cliff a little bit sometimes. So we run a service that supports adults with additional needs after they've left education to still develop their independence. They can visit their community. It's all about kind of shaping them as individuals. Life doesn't end once you leave education. And then we have an outdoor centre as well, where we have local schools come in. We have colleges. The Prince's Trust comes as well. We offer sessions for local organisations to come for like team building days. We have like a climbing wall. We've got like a zip line. So there's different elements to Pettipool. We also have CHAPS, which is in the Pettipool family. So that stands for Cheshire Autism Practical Support. So it's a charity that's dedicated to improving lives of autistic individuals and their families across Cheshire and beyond. So they run parent training for parents or carers that have children with a diagnosis of autism, and on how to help them. They also run activities for autistic adults or children. They do counselling sessions for adults and children. So they do a lot for the local community around autism support. So about me, there she is. So I have 8 years of experience in SEND. I have had different roles within SEND. So I've supported in class, supported in the workplace, and then I was a curriculum manager. So I oversaw a lot of kind of work experience for individuals with additional needs. And now I'm starting in this role where I'm kind of transferring my skills learned into the community to develop more neuro-inclusive workplaces. I am neurodivergent myself, so I bring lived experience and understanding. So I was late diagnosed last year. So I'm going through my own kind of experience at the moment about my own neurodivergent identity and how my ADHD fits in my own workplace. So I bring a lot of kind of lived experience and advice with that. And I'm passionate about helping neurodivergent adults into meaningful employment. It's everything that Pettipool stands for. We want more neurodivergent people in sustainable, meaningful employment. So what we're going to look at today. So we've only got an hour. So we're going to try as much as we can do to get through some information. We're going to increase awareness of neurodiversity. We're going to recognise the workplace barriers and biases that are within that. We're going to appreciate what strengths neurodivergent people bring, and we're going to commit to listening and including neurodivergent voices. And we're going to reflect and we're going to set some actions of what we can do. First of all, why are we doing this? Why is neuro-inclusion and neurodiversity awareness training important? It explores key facts about neurodiverse people in work. It raises awareness and breaks down myths, provides practical tools to offer better support for neurodivergent employees, helps unlock innovation and fresh ideas. It helps you build a true culture inclusion, a true inclusive culture, and it strengthens performance and teamwork. First of all, we use the word neurodiversity and neurodivergence a lot. So what are we really talking about? So neurodiversity refers to the national variation in how human brains work. It includes differences in how we think, how we learn, how we process things, and how we behave. So neurodivergence itself is that a neurodivergent person is that their brain is different. They think differently, they learn, they process, and they behave differently because of how their brain works. This concept kind of embraces conditions like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette's syndrome, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. There's lots of different conditions that this associates with, and they're part of that natural human diversity. They're not deficits. So, neurodiversity in context. We use the medical and the social models of disability to kind of really think about how society, the workplace, schools, etc. think of disability. So the medical model of disability is the disability is the problem. The individual is the problem. It focuses on how do we diagnose them, how do we treat them, how do we fix that person. It assumes the individual must adapt to society or work. They are the problem. We need to look at how they can mould into us. For example, of how it could come across in the workplace, this employee struggles with communication, so they may not be suitable for this role. The social model is more around actually society's the problem. It sees disability as the result of the barriers in society, not the person itself. It focuses on removing obstacles, physical, it may be attitudes, procedures. It encourages then adapting environments, adapting systems and the attitudes within that. For example, this employee communicates differently. How can we adapt that role or environment to support them to thrive? So we use that a lot to kind of think about how do we respond to disabilities ourselves in our personal lives, workplaces, society. So I just want you to think for a second and if we could use the chat, I'll come out of sharing my screen for a second. After this, how does your organisation respond to neurodivergence? Does it lean more towards the medical model or more towards the social model? Just an honest chat. It's not to catch anyone out. It's more just getting an understanding of where everyone might be at. It might be a mixture of both. So if you could just take a second if you feel comfortable. Brilliant, Kate. Social, bit of both. Absolutely. Like, I think this session is more about just starting the thinking process, having a look about it. It's not to catch anyone out. It's more just starting that thinking process of how the workplace. We strive towards the social model. Brilliant, fantastic. Probably a bit of both. And that is, I did a session yesterday where it was a little bit of both. And again, that's not consciously. That is something that is within, again, depending on location, role, etc. Very true, Lisa. It does depend on the workplace itself, the job itself, etc. And we'll go into that a little bit more. But I just wanted a little bit of an idea of kind of where we're at a little bit. And it is a little bit of a mixture, which is really good because it means that, you know, we're all here for a reason. So let me share my screen again. And we will go back to the presentation and talk more about that. Okay. Wonderful. I'm going to present. Fantastic. Right, so we've covered that. Fantastic. Okay. A quote that always gets me thinking. Disability is not caused by the impairment itself, but by the way society responds to it. So, neurodiversity employment, just a few stats that are really important to kind of consider. Only 31% of autistic adults are in employment in the UK, compared to 54.7% of disabled people overall. Neurodivergent adults face unemployment rates of 30 to 40%, which is three times higher than other disabled groups, and 8 times higher than neurotypical. When we say neurotypical, it just means the typical brain. 50% of neurodivergent employees have taken time off work due to lack of support. 36 report receiving no guidance or support at work, and 20% are still waiting for adjustments. It's quite shocking that that's how many people are out of employment. And and there's lots of stats online, but that's kind of the latest stats. So what's the impact of this on the individuals and in society and organisations? Increased risk of mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, burnout. You may have come across the term masking, where a lot of neurodiverse people mask because they're trying to kind of hide what's different about them, and it's exhausting. Again, it can include to a lot of mental health challenges. It can make people feel like they're not included and they're not thriving in their workplace or their personal lives. Loss of identity, confidence and independence, reduced access to financial stability and career progression. A lot of neurodivergent people struggle to progress in their career, and they feel isolated because, again, they're masking those behaviours. They don't feel like they can be themselves. The impact on society and organisations, there's missed opportunities for innovation and diverse thinking. It's increased public spending on benefits and healthcare. The more people that are going for mental health support, that's more on the NHS and a lot more demand. Reduced productivity and team performance. You see an impact on your team. Ethical and reputational risks for the organisations. Again, a lot of people always talk, word of mouth travels around organisations that people work for, and retention is a massive thing. So if you're seen as not retaining your staff, that can spread and it can have an impact on the organisation. So barriers in the workplace. Okay, why is this? Why are they struggling? So it can be neurodivergent often face, it can be a range of barriers. It can be small, simple things that can reduce those barriers, often referred to as reasonable adjustments, and they can make a big difference in reducing and supporting neurodivergent people to thrive. These barriers could be rigid work structures, again, having set structure that they have to follow. There's no flexibility within that. It can be where they work, it can be what hours they work, etc. Sensory overload. A kind of example we always use is around kind of a Brillo pad, of using that when you're cleaning up your dishes. We use that as an example of how that feels, as if you're rubbing a Brillo pad on the back of someone's neck if they are neurotypical and they have a sensory overload. That's just a cotton label to some of us. To other people, it can feel like that. And it can include lights, it can include sound, it can be about the environment. Misunderstanding of communication styles. Neurodivergent people often can prefer a range of different communication styles. It can be written, verbal, a mixture of both, but it can sometimes come across as not understanding why they need that so many different styles. Social expectations, often it could be seen as the weirdo who's not going to the pub after work, or not kind of some neurodivergent people really struggle with that small talk in the staff room. So it can come across like they're not interested, but actually they are. It's just they struggle with that. Lack of awareness or training. Again, that awareness and that understanding is a massive part of what can cause that barrier, is that they don't understand why someone might be behaving like that, why someone might struggle like that. And disclosure dilemmas. There is still this natural shame that neurodivergent people feel about being different. So with that, they can feel shamed and they might not want to come forward with a disclosure. So some examples of kind of to explain how we can remove those barriers. Again, every single different neurodivergent person is individual, has different needs, but these are just some examples. So Olivia works as a data analyst in the large open plan office. She enjoys her job. The constant noise, the bright lights, and the interruptions make it really hard for her to concentrate and do her work. And she often feels overwhelmed and exhausted by the end of the day. We've then got Becky, who works in marketing. She has dyslexia, which makes it difficult for her to process long emails and written instructions. Sometimes she misses key details or feels overwhelmed trying to keep up with all the work. So how can we help? Again, small, simple things. So Olivia says she spoke to her manager about it, and explained how the environment was affecting her. The manager wasn't aware, and they're really understanding and arranged for her to use noise cancelling headphones, move the desk to a quieter corner, allowed for her to work from home a couple of days a week. Again, this does depend on where you are. Space is never always available, but this is just a scenario of where it could work with those examples. Those small changes made a huge difference. She feels more focused, less anxious, and able to do a job. Becky says she eventually spoke to a team about it. They were really supportive. They started using bullet points, voice notes, visual aids to help communicate, began using software to help with reading and writing, and these changes made it a big difference. Just some more examples of what reasonable adjustments you can consider. Again, depending on the environment you work in, it can be different. Clear routines and expectations. Expectations of what the job is, how long you want them to focus on it. Again, there can be a situation, we work in busy environments where someone can be working on something and something else takes priority. It's that communication and clear, okay, I know you're working on this, but I now need you to focus on this. And I need you to work on it for the rest of the day. The other things can work and you on kind of tomorrow. And just that clear and clarity is really helpful. Flexible working hours and options, again, completely depends on kind of where you're working, but where possible, can they start an hour later? Does that help with their commute? Does it help if they work from home one day a week just to get all the admin they need and just have that quiet time and that focus time? Extending deadlines where appropriate. Again, that's why I say where appropriate. It does depend on where you work, but just where possible, can they have a few extra days to focus on it? If something comes up in the week when they're supposed to be working on it, can that be considered for the deadline? Can it be moved back? One-to-one check-ins is like the first thing I'd always recommend. I have them myself. It really helps. I kind of write down every week what I need to speak to my boss about, and then I know that I'm going to have that dedicated time to check in, talk about how I'm doing, and go through everything. Again, an ideal world, but where possible, making time for someone is just ideal. Provide visual aids, checklists, templates. Again, that depends on what job you're doing. I love a visual. There are great apps now that are coming out more and more around kind of those checklists, those to-do lists. Microsoft To Do is my best friend. It helps remind me what I need to focus on. Again, breaking down tasks and having that visual of how to, if it's a really big task, just taking that time to break it down with that person, have that visual checklist of how it's broken down, really helpful. Use written as well as verbal communication, really helps to have both. Again, if you're having meetings and you've had that meeting and you've talked about things verbally, always trying to follow up with a written explanation or agenda of what everyone needs to do. It's really helpful because neurodivergent people their memory can depend, but the memory is quite poor sometimes. So it really helps having that follow up. Bias in the workplace as well. So we talked about barriers that they might face and some suggestions of how to support them to overcome those barriers. What does neuro bias look like? So again, it is unconscious very often and can show up in subtle ways. So for example, communication assumptions, expecting eye contact. There is this stereotype that if someone's confident, they walk up to you, they give eye contact, they shake your hand, they're a confident person, they know what they're doing. Actually, that's really hard for someone neurodivergent to do, especially when processing information. Often myself, I struggle in meetings. I kind of have to look at the wall, or I might be writing things down or looking elsewhere when someone's talking, but I am listening, and it's really hard to concentrate on both of giving eye contact and also processing information. So that can be an assumption that they're not listening, but they are. Quick verbal responses, really quite hard for someone neurodivergent to give a quick response. What's your idea? I want it instantly. Sometimes that's really hard for someone, and it can come across that they don't know what they're doing, or they've got no ideas. That's not the case. It just means they need processing time to really think about what ideas there could be. or group participation. There might be someone quiet in a meeting. Doesn't mean they're not listening. Doesn't mean they're not engaged. It just means they might be reflecting. They might be listening to what everyone's saying and thinking about it, and they might come back with more ideas 10 minutes later, an hour later. Valuing speed over depth is a lot of expectation around being productive. Actually, speed sometimes a neurodivergent person can create something even better with more time rather than how quickly they can do it. Multitasking as well, especially for someone with ADHD like myself, really hard to go in between. We have hyperfocus where we can really focus on something, and it's really hard to come out of that. So like I said before, if something more urgent has come into place, just be aware that that person might struggle coming out of it. But if you give them 5 minutes, I need you just in 5 minutes, just come and have a chat about this topic. I need you to focus on that the rest of the day, but just have 5 minutes, just carry on with what you're doing. And just being aware that they might struggle with that. It's just the first step. Flexibility, misunderstandings. There can be a bias against neurodivergent people being favoritised. Getting the special treatment rather than actually focusing on that's what they need to get the job done. I've worked with some employers in the past where I've suggested that they give out questions before interviews to help people prepare for an interview, and they've told me it's an advantage to that person, and I've had to kind of argue that no, it's a disadvantage to a neurodivergent person that is helping them. But also, why can't everyone have the answers? It's not like we're not the answers, the questions. It's not like we're trying to cheat. Actually, an interview is about getting to know that person, and if they can prepare, they can actually give better answers to your questions. So yeah, there does seem to be kind of a misconception that they're being favoritised. Busting myths. So just some myths that you can often come across. You can always tell if someone's neurodivergent. No, you can't. Many neurodivergent conditions are invisible and can vary. No one neurodivergent is the same. We are very different in between. We have different needs. We have different traits, different personalities. We're all very different. So, and some, do have complex needs. So it might be more visible. Some, we call it higher need and lower need. If they have a lower need for support, it might not be obvious, but it doesn't mean that they are neurotypical. Another myth, neurodivergent people can't work in high pressure or professional environments. Not true. With the right support, the right strategies, many neurodivergent people can thrive in a range of roles, industries, environments. It just has to be, that support needs to be discussed. And again, that is something that we do as part of our role at Pettypool with our young people. But I've seen it many times that one person can go from, within a week, it's a busy environment, and they may appear to be unsettled, but then they get used to it. There's support, visual checklists, practicing in quiet environments, etc., and then they're thriving. So there's different ways to put in that support. People with ADHD can't concentrate. Not true. It does affect attention. It does, and we can struggle with tasks and hyper-focus on some tasks. Especially, I work in a busy environment, but I followed my own strategies. I've come up with my own strategies on how to, I've got my noise-cancelling headphones. I can book out the meeting room if I need it. I can be honest with my colleagues when I just need some quiet time. Again, easier said than done. It's not always that easy in environments, but there are strategies to help with attention span. And again, sometimes that focus is really beneficial for the workplace. So what are the strengths? We've talked about a lot of challenges of neurodivergent people, what barriers they may face, what biases, but the strengths of neurodivergent employees are really important to consider as well for your organisation. How much more could your organisation achieve by tapping into unique talents of neurodivergent individuals? So we say every single brain is different. What an enriching group of people. Their attention to detail, their focus, their creative problem solving, they're honest, sometimes too honest, but I love it. You know, and they're direct, and sometimes you know where you stand. So there's lots of different benefits of working with neurodivergent employees. Just to give a little bit of an example of, for example, a librarian. The attention to detail, you know, they'd be excellent at cataloguing, organising, maintaining accurate records because of that focus, that attention to detail. They would be the best, most professional catalogues you've ever seen in your life. That deep focus, again, they can concentrate on tasks like research, archiving, data entry. Their creative problem solving, they offer really unique perspectives for improving systems and services. And their empathy, they're often passionate about the inclusion. They want to feel included. So again, a massive area of looking at neuro inclusion is also looking at your clients and how your business runs. And a neurodivergent employee can really help you consider how to make your environment inclusive for clients as well. So again, in a library, they'd be able to make it more welcoming for everyone. They'd be able to suggest different ideas of how they would feel more included, and that's a benefit for your organisation. So, creating safe spaces. It's really a lot of people, when you sign on to this webinar, kind of the main thing they wanted to know was, how do I help a colleague? How do I help someone? A lot of the time it's knowing where to start, and it's such a complex thing, neuro inclusion. It doesn't happen overnight. But there are things that you can do as a supportive colleague. You don't need to be an expert. You don't. There's just different things that you can do to help. Knowing how to respond, recognising when a colleague might be struggling, and how to refer them for extra support, because it's, as an employer, as a colleague, there's only so much that you can do, but there's also support out there, and if you're referring them to it, you're also doing your job, and you're helping that person. So let's look at the first one: how to recognise signs someone may be struggling. Withdrawal or silence in meetings. I know I discussed how sometimes that's not a sign. That's why there's a mixture of signs. It might be, again, that they're just concentrating, that's fine. But it might be that in multiple meetings they might be struggling, or they might be really silent, not contributing, or after the meetings as well. You know, you've tried that different inclusive approach and they're still not contributing. The overwhelming, busy or noisy environments, you might see them. Again, those physical signs, looking stress. It's really hard to hide. People do mask it, but it can be there. Missed deadlines or difficulty with instructions. You can find you're explaining the same thing again and again to someone and they're just not getting it. And again, it might be because you're just explaining it verbally in a busy environment. So again, it might be that actually they need support in a different way to help them, but they may be struggling because it's just that one way. Emotional distress or shutdowns. Again, masking is so exhausting. When you're not feeling included, it's really exhausting, and it can have a really hard effect on how our mental health is. So that is kind of a clear sign that someone might be struggling. Avoidance or social interaction or eye contact. Again, it sounds like I contradicted myself a little bit, but it's why it kind of all builds a picture together. That it might be someone that usually gives eye contact, that isn't all of a sudden, or again, completely, not every neurodivergent person hates going to the pub. There might be someone that's going to the pub and then all of a sudden stops coming. It might be changes in routine or performance. There might be a sudden change in something. So there's certain signs. Again, everyone is different, but it's just kind of those signs to kind of keep an eye on. Then it's really important to know how to respond appropriately. Oh, she skipped. There we go. Support with empathy and respect. Don't assume. Ask open, non-judgmental questions, like you probably do in your one-to-ones anyway. How's it going? Like, it's not advised to go straight in and say, I think you've got autism. It may be, oh, I kind of noticed a couple of these, and it might be along the way you kind of recommend screening. I know of employees that have done that and it's been supportive to the employee. but I would just try and kind of first approach it with that open-ended approach of just seeing how they are. You might use an example of, oh, I just noticed this week. Is everything okay? And again, like this person struggling might actually not know why they're struggling. They might, not be diagnosed. They might just be going through the process themselves. It's really hard to know, so don't assume. Just ask those questions and see what they come back with. Create a safe environment. Offer quiet spaces, flexible options for everyone where you can. Again, depending on the job, but where possible, offer those options to everyone, and that creates a really safe environment for everyone. Psychological safety is really important in the workplace. Use inclusive communication. Again, as we said, if you're already using this, if you're already using visual aids for everyone, if your common practice is to send an email after a meeting, etc., then you'll see a lot of people actually will struggle less and less. Validate their experience. If someone has come to you and kind of disclosed or said they're struggling, the best thing to do straight away is just to be like, listen, don't put any pressure on them to be like, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can fix it. Like, it's more just listen, offer support, ask those questions. What support do you need from me? Again, it might be great that you can come up with some ideas together, but listen, validate their experience. Thank you for sharing this with me. It is massive for someone to come forward and say they're struggling anyway, let alone someone who's neurodiverse. I'll go on a little bit about talking about kind of diagnosis and everything like that, but the wait is long. So a lot of times people are struggling because they're waiting for that diagnosis. So actually them talking about it is massive for them, because they might not know yet. And there is that little kind of fear of anxiety of whether they are neurodivergent or not. Refer. Again, there will be internal support that you can do. Refer to HR. If you are HR, having those discussions, line manager, a colleague might come to you rather than go to their line manager, and they might need support to, how do I approach this with my line manager? Can you help me kind of put a bit of a script together of what I should say? Can you come with me? Again, if you're comfortable doing that, brilliant. There could be employee assistance programs. We have counselling service here at Pettypool that we can use as employees, so there might be that. Directing them of what they can do within, what support is available within, as well as reasonable adjustments. So again, under the Equality Act of 2010, even if someone isn't diagnosed, there should be reasonable adjustments in place. This does depend on wherever you work. Obviously, it changes on every single job and every single person, but this again might be flexible hours, it might be sensory accommodations, it might be assistive tech that you can use. It can differ, but that is something that an employer is legally bound to look into. External support. Again, there is only so much that you can do as an employer. Refer them to their GP. If they're having mental health, if they're struggling with their mental health, the GP can support them with that. They can refer them to counselling. That is another avenue that they need to pursue as an employee, but you supporting them with that and kind of encouraging them does help. Charities and organisations, we've talked about CHAPS, Cheshire Autism Practical Support. We're really there to support, again, with especially around autism. But again, we'll always refer you to another place if it's another neurodivergence. ADHD UK, brilliant charity. National Autistic Society. There are loads of charities and organisations that are there to help as well. They do fantastic work. So refer them to that as well. Again, after this, if you want any of those informations, I can always send that to you. But there are certain things that you could do, and there's certain things that you can refer them on to. So let's hear from some neurodivergent people. It's really important that we ask neurodivergent employees to feed into this. Let's hear from their examples of the workplace, what challenges, what they face, what worked, what they think employers need to know. What do you think employers need to understand better about neurodiversity? Not all types of ADHD are the same. We've covered this a little bit around that every single neurodivergent person is different. but especially within the same diagnosis. We are all very different. I have met many people with ADHD who are very different to me and have different traits, different challenges. So again, approaching things individually is really important. That we're not a hindrance to the workforce, but actually we have lots of strengths and bring different ways of approaching things. As we said, the neurodivergent brain is different. So with that, they bring so many different solutions to things, a different perspective. They bring so much to the workplace. There is no one size fits all approach to working. And that people can do the job but may need to alter from the norm. So again, changing this mindset that everyone needs to do the same job the same. We are kind of close to the Generation Z coming into the workforce, and it's very much now like, this is how I work, which is brilliant. And it's more around, actually we don't all need to do the same thing, the processes don't need to stay the same. It's just something to consider, but that is around neurodivergent employees as well. I personally like people to know that the stereotype of autistic people not caring, feeling is a million miles away from the truth. I'd like them to be aware that sometimes more processing time is beneficial, change is less stressful with prior warning, and visual information helps understanding. So again, that visual there, that written information really helps with that processing. Processing time is so important to neurodivergent people. And there is this massive stereotype, we see it in modern media and TV shows, that autistic people don't care. It's not the case. They do care, they may show it differently, but just because someone is autistic doesn't mean they don't want to go to the pub, or they can't go to a cafe, etc., etc., or that they don't care about you. They do care about you, and they do care about people. They just show it a little bit differently. But again, that everyone is different and they show it in different ways. What challenges have you faced? So sensory overload, we've talked about this. It's a massive thing that I do come across. It's really hard to get space as an employer. It is, you're an organisation, you can't spend money for an office for every single person. You know, we wouldn't be realistic if we didn't consider that. But it's just considering that neurodivergent people will struggle with those crowded environments. So it is thinking those strategies in with that person of, you know, having that set time, if they can work from home sometimes a week, again, where possible. If they can have quiet time, meeting rooms booked out, set times. I even talked to a organisation yesterday around kind of have allocated times within the team. I was like, right, okay, 10 to 11, we're focusing on this, guys, and then we'll have a break and we can have a bit of small talk together, which I thought was just brilliant. Communication difficulties, lack of understanding from colleagues, feeling excluded or misunderstood. And again, this is not conscious. A lot of the time, it could be things that we've learned through society, things we've learned through school, etc. And this is why this awareness training is really important, and why it comes into place. Like, everyone feels excluded if people don't understand it, and things like this give a chance to explain why they work that way, and that's okay. In the past employment, I've had to justify why I need support in some circumstances and not in others. There seems to be a lack of awareness over autism and masking. Again, there can be that lack of awareness that comes up a lot around understanding why someone needs that. Again, if it's not communicated in the right way, I can understand why a colleague will, well, why do they get to work from home 2 days a week and I can't? So but that's not that individual's fault. It's around, okay, how can the organisation best communicate that? Again, probably through awareness and training. Most issues are worse when stressed. I can cope when I'm well rested. So again, if someone's masking and they're absolutely shattered, it can be that it's a stressful day. Just bearing in mind, like, the atmosphere itself, it can have a massive impact on a neurodivergent person. When I'm not given processing time, I find it really hard to process things quickly under pressure, and then I'm not able to do the task right. So again, the focus on the quickness of it, the speed, rather than the actual quality of something. It's just changed that mindset of actually thinking, right, if I give extra time, the quality of this will be better. What has helped you feel included or supported at work? Having the flexibility to work in another area or from home. In my current employment, I have been able to be open and upfront about my condition. I'm asked on a regular basis if I'm okay and there is anything that we can do to help, and I'm just beginning to feel okay about taking time off due to my health, which is fantastic that someone feels that comfortable. Again, that might not be everywhere, but wouldn't that be great if it was? Of kind of being able to talk about it more and being open about it more. Being treated equitably in terms of reasonable adjustments, but not treated differently to others in terms of general conversation in the office, and how it helps when people see me before my neurodiversity, again being seen as the individual rather than diagnosis. But again, that equity, not equality, it's about equity and what everyone needs to thrive. Having open conversations, not just about my neurodiversity, but neurodiversity in general, helps reduce any stigma within the team. So I've done training where there are autistic people or neurodivergent people in the room, and they've said afterwards it was really helpful to kind of, they felt like it gave them the space to talk about it more and talk about what works for them. And it's just that bit of confidence as well. So having managers who understand my difficulties and strengths and who work with me rather than against me, fantastic. So what does that tell us? There are quick wins to making neurodivergent employees included. They are small, quick wins. Neurodivergent employees just want to feel heard. They just want a chance to be able to talk about it. They might have the answers themselves. It's really hard to ask someone who's neurodivergent, well, what exactly do you need? They might struggle with that, but actually just have the opportunity to be asked and to have that environment to talk is just really beneficial. They want to feel valued, just like any other employee. They want to know themselves. We all have that, purpose and that pride that comes from different areas of our life, and they want that part of that to be the workplace. So it's really important they feel like that. And again, they want to be seen as an individual, not a diagnosis. As we've said, every single person is very different and has different needs, so they want to be seen as that person rather than someone who's got ADHD. Inclusion starts with understanding. That's the title of this session. So just some quick tips that we can go over. Learn the basics, understand what neurodiversity means and how it shows up in everyday work life. That can be done through many different ways. There are lots of different ways to learn about neuro-inclusivity, whether it's online training, face-to-face training, webinars, etc. But giving yourself that understanding is really helpful and the best place to start. Challenging assumptions, recognise and unlearn your own unconscious bias. There might be things that you've noticed today or things that you notice after this today. You think, actually, that's something I've just learned through society that's not necessarily true. So you changing your own mindset is a massive thing, especially as a leader. Start conversations, create those safe spaces for disclosure and dialogue. Don't assume needs, ask. So again, if that's a normality, no one should feel favoritised. If everyone's asked, okay, how do you thrive at work? What support do you need? Those regular check-ins, that's creating a safe space. It's not seen as just someone who's neurodivergent gets that. It's really important. Offer flexibility. Again, this will be seen in very different ways depending on where you work and your organisation, but it could be adapting the environment, how you communicate, and expectations of the roles. Provide neurodiversity awareness training, cheeky little plug obviously, but equip your team with the knowledge. I worked with a brilliant team yesterday from a range of leaders to juniors, and it was a lovely conversation about kind of the leader of the team said that I want people to feel like they can come to me about this anyway, but this is a really good environment to talk about this and make sure everyone does. But equip the whole team with it. It's everyone. Neurodiversity affects everyone. It's not just HR. It's not just leaders. It's everyone. And again, if you want to support your colleague, this training really helps. And this isn't just my own plug. There are different ways to get training available to the team. So there's no excuse really that if people work in different areas, etc., there is training everywhere, because this is a massive thing that everyone wants and is building within society as we speak. So what's the impact of inclusion? So improved mental health and wellbeing within individuals, within the team, not just the neurodiverse people. It can be across the whole team itself. Greater access to opportunities. Again, more neurodivergent people are in work. they are progressing in their career. It's more opening up more doors. Stronger teams, innovation. Again, teams, especially if they're going through that training together, especially if they're going through this process together, you're doing it together as a team, and it really is, it's fantastic building opportunity. Positive outcomes. Again, the less retention, the more retention, less people that leave, the more it looks on the organisation, the more happy people are, the more the organisation is looked at in a positive light. So it's really good impact on the organisation itself. Societal benefits. I mean, that's why Pettypool even exists. We want to make a positive impact on neurodiverse people from a range of ages, but it's a benefit on society. We've got more people on work, less people going to the doctors because of their struggling at the workplace. It's a better impact, and again, a thriving workplace and a successful business. So, what changes can you make within your organisation to be more inclusive? I'm going to come out sharing again. I just wanted, there'll be time in a couple of minutes to have proper questions, but I just want, if you can use the chat, kind of any ideas that are coming to mind already. Again, might not be already, you might need time to reflect and think about it, but what changes could you make? What changes could your organisation make? Just any thoughts, if there's any going, it would be great in the chat. And then we can, it just gives me an idea of anything, but don't worry if not. Again, it's absolutely fine if it's something that everyone needs to process and come away from. But that's what I want you to come away thinking about. What changes can I make? What changes can my organisation make? Again, things aren't done straight away. It could be today you can make a change. It could be tomorrow. It could be something that has to happen within a week. Something that happens within a year. But I'll go through actually just, I'll share my screen again. Create and share a directory of resources for colleagues to access, signpost into chats. Brilliant, Claire. Yeah, 100%. I think this is something that I'm working on at the moment. We are going to launch a little bit of a how-to booklet that we can give to employers, and that employees and employers can do together, because that's the whole thing, is it needs to thrive, and we want to give a bit of a checklist. So some people have asked for like a reasonable adjustments checklist. Some people have asked for just that information of where they can go to for support. So that is coming, but that is out there at the moment, and is available on Chaps as well. Charlie work in a busy co-working space, and I think as an organisation, our little office within this busy environment, we can certainly review our work environment for each team member. Oh, chef's kiss, wonderful. But again, it's that realism. Okay, like, you know, everything's a business. We need to function, and you know, as I said, you can't have a different room for every single person, but it's just thinking small things that you can do. And again, it's not just something for you to work on, Charlie. It's something, ask the team as well, get that input from the team of, okay, what do you think? You know, I've come away from this training today, and we're thinking this, like, what do you guys think? And it can be really small things. Colleague has brought a neurodivergence to my attention, making sure I create the space to listen, provide reassurance, and give any reasonable adjustments. Fantastic, Andrew. That's it. That's summed up beautifully. That's all you can do. It's that space. It's a massive thing for someone who's neurodivergent. Again, brilliant that she's come to you. That just shows who you are as an individual as well, that you create obviously that safe space already. But the more we can do that, the smallest things, that's brilliant. I'll just share my screen one more time. So I'm just going to go through the training that we offer, and then I'll come back. Just noticed someone else added to the chat, so I'll come back to that in a second. So just a bit of an idea of how, again, I've rushed through what I have today, because, you know, it's very hard to do this in an hour, and I want to give as much support as I can. But this is kind of what we do at the moment. So we build a bit of a programme for employers and external organisations that can be adapted. Creating a neuro-inclusive workplace. This is for the whole team. Again, focuses on how to support a colleague, focuses on the barriers that neurodivergent people might face. Then we delve into neurodiversity further, looking at the different conditions, in neurodiversity awareness, celebrating the different strengths in more detail as well. We kind of look within that specific area of your workplace and what strengths someone can bring. Understanding neurodivergent clients, a massive thing as well. You know, are you creating that environment for clients as well? And it doesn't mean just like a retail environment or something that they come and visit. It could be online as well. You know, how are you communicating with your clients? Recruiting neurodivergent talent. A massive area is recruitment. I didn't go into it much today, but the smallest things you can do in your recruitment process can actually can help become more neuro-inclusive. Not long applications, the interview itself, sharing questions beforehand. So we kind of delve into this a little bit more in this session. And leading a neurodivergent workforce, kind of focus more on the leadership, the legalities involved, reasonable adjustments, how you can create that inclusive environment. So that is me. I will now open the floor. I'm just going to check what was on the chat. I'm going to stop sharing. Katie's put, we've created a focus group that includes people from all over our organisation, and we're focused on neurodiversity currently, sharing conversations about how we can be more inclusive and diverse across the brilliant focus group. Again, is a really good environment because again, it's a group of people. You're not just targeting someone individually, and they can kind of all share their different experience. We all, even neurotypical that we use, all have our individual styles of working anyway, so it's not out of the norm, but that's a brilliant way to kind of start that conversation. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor you can use the chat box, you can put your hand up, whatever you're comfortable with. I will say, if you'd rather ask me in a less public forum, absolutely fine. Hopefully everyone's got my email address, but if not, my details are on LinkedIn as well. To ask me some questions, anything follow up. Again, you might have questions after this, but just let me know. I have Dina shared, faced barriers in a placement setting, which has resulted in me not getting the degree I'd worked so hard for. I'm so sorry to hear that, Dina. I've complained to see what can be done. Good. Yeah, I think we're still not there. By no means are we there, but it's more about, you know, even ourselves, an organisation, Pettypool, we learn every year, we learn every day. Like it's something that an organisation always has to grow, whether it is a educational setting, a workplace setting. But I'd reach out to organisations because that's really hard. I'm glad you've complained, but reach out for that support as well, because it's hard to face that alone. So that support is out there. If you want to afterwards, please do let me know if I can support in any way, and I'll try and direct you to the right places. If someone with neurodivergent isn't quite sure what support they need at this stage, what's some top tips on how to navigate this? Really good question. Okay, so again, going in with suggestions. So it's really it's getting that balance right of saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is some things that we could suggest. And again, so when I got my diagnosis of ADHD, I got a very, very long, overwhelming list of reasonable adjustments I can ask my employer for. And there's loads that I can do. Some are small, some are big. But it's possibly having that kind of list to hand. Again, that's something that we're looking at as an organisation to be able to give employers, because again, it is the first step sometimes. And sometimes having that conversation, it can be on that neurodivergent person that's like, oh, I don't know what I need, because that's a lot. But yeah, just I'd say with some examples, again, Andrew, I'm happy to send you some examples after this. But top tips, what can they do in work? So again, what can you do to help? Again, it might be looking at the job they do, the environment, then looking at the personal life, again, looking at, you know, what's their support system like? Some people have that support system in place, some don't. So it's looking at, okay, here's, again, that's why those charities come really in handy. They usually have a lot of online support systems or telephone conversations, text conversations, etc. So you can kind of say, well, this is what you can do, but definitely refer them to their GP. There is a crisis at the moment on getting diagnosed. And it's really hard to get diagnosed. So a lot of people are going private. Some people are in the they can do that, and that's great. Some people aren't. So there's now launching this right to choose campaign for the NHS. The NHS aren't really promoting it as much because obviously if everyone goes right to choose and goes to private, that's going to have a big impact. But it is something that you have a right to choose. So you go to your GP, they can select the right to choose, and then the GP gives them a list of different different clinics, private clinics, etc., that they will recognise that diagnosis, and so they can go to there. I've spoken to a lot of people that have been waiting about 2 years. In the end, they had to do that. So it's supporting them to recognise that option's there for them as well, but that's they need to go through their GP for that as well. But also that no matter what, you'll still help them even if they're not diagnosed. It's really hard for someone to come forward, especially when they're not diagnosed, because they feel like they're just, for me, I felt like I was making a fuss until I was actually like, oh, right, okay, I do actually have it. So this makes sense in my head. But yeah, I can send I'll write a note here, Andrew. I'll send you something a little bit more coherent after this, just with some tips. But again, I'll be sending everyone this recording afterwards. So if you do have any follow-up questions, please just shout. I'm going to go to Charlie first, and I'll come to you, Kate. When a lot of terms like fast-paced environment or no day is the same within a business and work environment, how would you combat this or approach this as someone who has a neurodiversity to not deter them from the role? If that's the case of when they're going for the role, I would always, I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but on our website we put like we are neurodivergent friendly, or disability employer confidence scheme. Now again, I can send this out more information about this, but we are there are certain stages to be disability confident as an employer, and when people see that, that's generally a bit of a, oh, yay, okay. So that's a bit of a scheme that that we can kind of refer you to as well, and it's something that we've done that's been really helpful. But yeah, just a little bit of a tagline, or even on the application itself, I would kind of recommend putting that we are neurodivergent friendly. If you have any reasonable adjustments for this interview, etc., I do kind of cover a little bit in that recruitment session, because it's, again, that's their first impression of the organisation. But I'd say put it somewhere on that advert would be really good. No worries. Okay, Kate.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Thanks ever so much for this. Has been brilliant for me. So my son has just left school, and his name's Spencer. He hasn't been diagnosed with anything, but he's certainly neurodivergent. He sort of went through his whole school life going through different agencies and trying to get a diagnosis, I suppose, and just, you know, for that additional help. What I think would have helped him would have been a TA at some point. But anyway, he didn't get it, so he struggled all the way through school. Went to various different schools because they just couldn't cope with him, for lack of a better way to describe that. Spencer's absolutely lovely, by the way, and you know, he just can't. That classroom environment wasn't for him. So we live in the Forest of Dean, which is about 3 hours away from you. And I was wondering if either you were aware of any other sort of places, settings around the Forest or Gloucestershire then, that might sort of be for Spence, because it would be great for him to go to you guys, but again, that travel would just kill me. And Spence. So yeah, you know, are you looking to expand at all, or yeah, do you know?
I mean, that's I think we're ready to take over the world, in all honesty, but bit by bit, it's not an area I think, but what I can do, Katie, I've got your email address.
Yeah.
Can I come back to you? Let me have a look, because there's how old is he?
He's 16 now.
16.
Yeah, just
Wonderful.
left school.
Wonderful. Well,
and I'm struggling, Emma, you know, to get any sort of guidance. You know, he'd applied for this course. It was a music course, and he didn't get in, and we were given like no other options or anything. So he's currently in limbo, really, just doesn't know where to go, what to do. You know, he's, like I say, he's lovely, totally capable. Everybody loves Spence, you know, but we're really struggling.
Okay. I've heard this. It's so hard. It is, especially as a SEND parent. So let me take your details, Kate.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
let's put in some time, and I can support any way I can, and I can direct you. Again, at the moment, my role is mainly focusing on the workplace and that older. But we have a great cracking team here at Pettiball. So I can always ask about recommendations and things like that, and who's best to go through. So I've got your email address. I'll reach out, and then we'll have a chat, and I'll see how I can help.
Thank you ever so much, Emma.
No worries at all. I totally understand. Any other questions? No, wonderful. Well, again, you've all got my details, but I'll send out a copy of this. Please do reach out. Any further support, I'm happy to have conversations over a cup of tea. But I really appreciate everyone. So many people coming here today to learn about neuroinclusion. Thank you. Take care, everyone, and I'm sure we'll speak soon.